Welcome to our Explainer, brought to you by Forge College. Now, if you've been following along with us in the broader Blockchain Fundamentals course, specifically the module on why blockchain, philosophy, trust, and practical value, you know we've been laying down a seriously solid foundation. In our last lesson, Principles of Decentralized Execution, we spent a lot of time on the pristine, abstract math of blockchains and verifiable code. But today we're diving headfirst into the beautiful, messy, highly caffeinated reality of human behavior. I mean, how do you actually get hundreds of developers scattered all over the globe to agree on code without the whole thing descending into total chaos? We talk a lot about the software itself, but hey, code doesn't write itself, and it certainly doesn't govern itself. So, let's find out how they actually pull this off.
Here's our blueprint for today. We're going to cover 1. Decentralized execution in practice. 2. The tools of transparency. 3. Real-world decision-making. 4. The civic governance metaphor. 5. Navigating governance trade-offs. And finally, 6. Shared accountability. Let's just jump right in.
Section 1. Decentralized execution in practice. So we're transitioning from that abstract idea of verifiability right into the actual ground-level social practices that make it a reality.
To really understand how decentralized execution works, we need to pin down our core concept. Open source collaboration is basically a set of practical norms and tools that make project artifacts visible, reproducible, and open to contribution. You can kind of think of it like a massive community kitchen. It's a set of norms that make the recipes totally visible, totally reproducible, and open to anyone who wants to walk in off the street and, chop some carrots. But here's the thing. Tools alone don't guarantee that nobody spits in the soup, right? It's the shared norms and the continuous public record keeping that make transparency an actual repeatable habit. If a project claims to be open source just because they have a public repository of code, but a small group of head chefs is making all the major decisions in a private pantry and just handing you the final dish, that is not true open source collaboration. True transparency requires a real chain of evidence. We want to see the recipe drafts, the ingredient testing, the fiery disagreements over seasoning, and the final taste test. All of it right out in the open.
Okay, moving to Section 2, the tools of transparency. Let's look at the actual machinery that distributes responsibility and eliminates those single points of failure.
Think of this as your auditor's toolkit. When a project claims to be open, you need to check for these 5 concrete artifacts. First up, the public repo with its commits. This is the absolute version history of the code, proving exactly when someone changed a line and, what they actually altered. Second, the issue tracker. Think of this as the public complaint box and discussion board. It records bug reports and feature requests, which shows us the true motivation behind any change. Third is code review and pull requests. This is where another developer actively looks at the code and basically says, "Are you really sure about this?" before approving it. It proves who authorized what and why. Fourth, design RFCs, or requests for comment. These are the long-form essays explaining the deep rationale for massive architectural changes. And fifth, automated tests. Think of these like robot bouncers at the door that automatically check if new code is going to break any of the old code. If a project has all 5 of these operating in the daylight, they are building some massive resiliency.
Section 3. Real-world decision-making. Now it's time to take these tools out of the abstract toolbox and see what they look like in action.
Imagine a massive blockchain protocol suddenly needs to change its core consensus rules. Now, they can't exactly just quietly swap out the code on a random Tuesday night while everyone's sleeping. They have to follow a strict, highly visible ritual. Step 1, they draft an RFC, detailing the exact problem and their proposed solution. Step 2 is public debate and testing. This is where the community relentlessly pokes holes in the idea, running simulations and arguing all those weird edge cases. Step 3, governance approval. Now, depending on the project, this could be a really broad community token vote or maybe a steering committee sign-off. And finally, Step 4, merge and release. You see, this sequence concentrates all that detailed reasoning into a single reviewable artifact. It produces a permanent time-stamped paper trail that literally anyone can reference years down the line. It's a beautiful, occasionally exhausting, but highly effective process.
But here's the million-dollar question. Who actually gets to press that big, scary merge button at the end of the process? Well, that is where meritocratic role allocation comes into play. Good projects clearly document responsibilities. They grant very specific access rights, and they keep auditable records of exactly how someone earned those rights in the first place. It's not just about who writes the fastest code, right? It's about who has consistently demonstrated solid judgment and genuinely earned the community's trust over years of contributions. Earning these roles creates an accountable chain, so we know exactly who is authorized to push a potentially risky change to millions of users. Because when roles are publicly documented and truly merit-based, there are no shadow rulers pulling the strings behind the scenes, just accountable, highly visible maintainers.
Section 4. The civic governance metaphor. To really wrap our heads around these highly technical structures, let's use a pretty fun mental model. Let's just treat our software project like a living, breathing town.
First up in our little town, we have the town hall. These are the public spaces for broad participation, mapping directly to our issue trackers in those public RFC folders we talked about. Just like a real town hall, literally anyone can walk in off the street, grab the microphone, and share their opinion, no matter how obscure or passionate they might be. The town hall is absolutely fantastic for gathering a super diverse range of voices, identifying weird edge cases, and making sure you avoid blind spots. It gives the software project massive legitimacy because, hey, everyone had a chance to speak. But let's be completely honest with ourselves here. If you've ever been to a real-world town hall meeting, you know they aren't exactly famous for their blistering speed. Broad participation takes a whole lot of time. If you need a crucial decision made by 5 p.m. today, asking 500 different developers for their opinion is definitely not the fastest route.
And because town halls are notoriously slow, the town also desperately needs a city council. These are your formal decision makers, often called steering committees or elected core maintainers. Councils speed up decisions. They break deadlocks and synthesize all that noisy public input from the town hall into actual, actionable roadmaps. But, and this is a big but, to prevent them from turning into a permanent dictatorship, they must have strictly documented selection criteria and term limits. We need to know exactly how someone gets a seat on the council and, more importantly, how the community can vote them right back out. Because if the city council starts having undocumented meetings in a dark, smoky backroom to decide the future of the code, your project's transparency is instantly compromised.
Finally, we have the emergency crew. Imagine a critical security vulnerability is discovered at 3 a.m. on a Sunday. You absolutely do not have time to draft a long-form essay and hold a town hall debate about it. You need this small group with delegated, highly urgent authority. They are heavily caffeinated and built purely for speed. They can deploy a hotfix in minutes. However, to stay trustworthy, their powers have to be incredibly narrow. Plus, they require strict post hoc publication of what they did immediately after the fire is actually out. They have the authority to break the glass and fix the server, but they must leave a highly detailed receipt explaining exactly what code they touched and why, so the rest of the town can review their actions in the morning light.
Section 5. Navigating governance trade-offs. In software governance, just like in real life, you really can't have your cake and eat it too. These civic groups constantly have to balance against each other.
And this brings us to the ultimate balancing act of any decentralized system. On one side, you have inclusiveness, the town hall model. It's highly legitimate, it ensures you gather the best ideas from all corners of the globe, but honestly, it moves at the speed of a snail. On the exact opposite side, you have speed, the emergency crew. That allows for incredibly fast action to save a protocol from an exploit, but it desperately needs post-hoc transparency so that rapid power isn't abused by a few insiders. Every single open source project has to make trade-offs somewhere on this spectrum. Broad participation takes time, while rapid response mechanisms risk opacity. Ultimately, the long-term health of an open source project entirely depends on how gracefully it manages the tension between these two extremes.
Section 6. Shared accountability. As we wrap things up today, let's tie all this human messiness back to our core goal, making sure the software we actually rely on is truly trustworthy.
If you take absolutely nothing else away from this explainer today, please remember this exact phrase. Evidence matters more than assertions, period. When a marketing team or a lead developer tells you their project is perfectly open, perfectly transparent, and totally community-driven, that is just an assertion. Always demand the receipts. Point to the linked issue, the pull request, the public RFC, or the automated test logs. If a massive protocol-altering update drops out of nowhere and there's no public debate, no recorded code review, and absolutely no visible testing history, well, the evidence is telling you a wildly different story than their marketing department is. Trust the artifacts, not the assertions.
So, here is my final challenge to you. Can you map your favorite software project's artifacts to the town hall, the city council, and the emergency crew? Go look at their public repositories. Can you actually find where the broad debates are happening? Can you identify their steering committee and exactly how they're elected? Do they have a transparent, documented emergency response plan for when things inevitably break? Basically, do you actually know who holds the keys to the digital tools you use every single day? Take this reflective task right into your next lesson on design patterns, where we're going to see how these messy human behaviors get encoded directly into the code itself. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer brought to you by Forge College. Be sure to check out forge.college to learn more about this subject and tons of other fundamental Web3 topics. Keep learning, keep demanding evidence, and I will see you next time.